Welcome everybody to episode 4 of MMA Talk. Joel's working through some audio difficulty. JR is working through some complete technology difficulty. But we do have Lane Grease here tonight, BJJ Black Belt. Thanks for joining, Lane.
Thank you.
When Joel can speak, we'll introduce him. Right now, he can't.
I don't even
Or
know if he
at
hears
least,
us. He's very
I,
intently staring at his computer screen, but
yeah, I don't.
oh,
I don't
well,
think
now,
he
now he's looking
does.
up at us. But
Let's see if I can send him an internal message. He should be able to see that. Well, just got a text from somebody. Wi-Fi, but working on it. Oh, JR's working on finding a better spot for the Wi-Fi. Apparently, he's in a big concrete building, so
sounds about right.
must be some type of bomb bunker. Probably something that's hurricane proof. I can barely hear you.
Very quiet.
Yeah. Very, very silent.
You have to cut this out of your life already. But you just
Yeah.
continue talking while I try to figure this out because I can hear you.
That's a little better. Like if you're maybe it's like if you're closer to it or something.
Oh, maybe it's
Yeah, it's definitely better when you scoot it closer.
Yeah, you're still a little quiet, but it's better.
okay. I'm trying to get it to pick up with the headphones instead of the camera, but I guess that's better than nothing.
It sounds
Yeah.
clear, anyways. It's just a little, just a little light, but
Yeah, it
Okay.
sounds like your volume's turned way down, like 20%.
Okay.
All right, so as I was saying, we're waiting on JR. He's still trying to find a Wi-Fi spot in the command bunker he's in somewhere in Florida. Joel's with us. Lane is with us. I'm here. This is our first episode of 2023. Welcome back, everybody. Lots of crazy stuff going on. Got a new light heavyweight champ. We're about to have a new heavyweight champ. We've got two fighters that are in the UFC that are fighting for pound, I guess, in a way. That's tomorrow. Some interesting stuff going on.
yeah, I'm a little disappointed in that card tomorrow. I mean, obviously, like I want to see the headliner fight, and maybe the Emmett and the Yair Rodriguez fight will be good. But other than that, it's pretty sparse card for what should be like a premium marquee matchup.
I tend to agree with you because same thing when I was looking, I only pulled up two fights that I felt were worthy to talk about. And
Yeah, it's
then
unfortunate because I've seen some stuff where Islam has been kind of bitching about Dana White not promoting it very much, and I think that's legitimate. I mean, you got Volkanovski, who's supposed to be basically like the star or one of the stars, moving up to fight, you know, Dagestan's finest, and Khabib protege, and you can't find shit about it.
right. And I guess Dana messaged him and explained some stuff and I guess he's okay with it now, but yeah, there was definitely and then there was the drama where I guess the other day Dana forgot his name. Couldn't think of his name, but
Yeah,
I do that like every other day with people's names, so I can't. I'd be the person in the glass house, so I can't throw stones. Yeah, I got the card pulled up now, and let me. I'll go ahead and share the screen. We'll slap that up there. Let's see where you at. There we go. least we've got something to look at too. There we go. It's a big. There we go. We'll just do it right there. I can make it a little bit bigger. Make it a little bit easier for you guys to see. There we go. I still don't know how well you can see that, but and I'm still not seeing odds on the fight. No
Yeah,
odds.
Makachev was a pretty decent favorite, I know, in the main event.
I think
Klaus, was
that's-
magst du? Geh raus. Geh raus.
Yeah, and what I didn't know until just this week was, or is, Yair and Josh are the number one contender fighters. They get an interim belt. So whoever wins that fight is the interim featherweight champ until they fight Volkanovski.
Yeah, I don't mind that because that's one thing I've always kind of disliked with how the UFC has done guys like moving up. Like they did that with like Connor. Like Connor held like weight classes hostage for forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's one of the things where, you know, I don't think Bellator is quote unquote better, but like the tournament style of that, one thing is really nice is it's like you know how to get a title fight. Like you get into the tournament, you win the tournament, you get the title fight. Whereas like I can't remember, it might have been Chael Sonnen podcast or something that, you know, he's talking about. He's like nobody knows how to get a title fight in the UFC because like winning is part of it, but it's like that's not it. It's like you know, there's
Yeah.
you know some other formula to, you know, call outs and talking smack and, you know, that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, and fighters turn down those fights, you know? Oh, I don't want to fight him. So if you're an up and comer, you can find it hard to get, like Bilal Muhammad said there, you know, he finds it hard to get fights because nobody wants to fight him.
Yeah, well, and it makes sense. Like if you're, you know, if you're kind of like a right on the cusp or on the lip of the cup kind of guy, it's like why would you want to fight a guy who's, you know, only like top 20 or top 15? You know, because you're taking all like if you win, you probably don't get anything for that as far as like moving up. But if you lose, now whatever you may have had, you know, possibly going on is out of there, you know. And so then, yeah, if you get held hostage, you're trying to stay active with fights, but nobody else in the top five is going to fight somebody else in the top five if they think that they are the next person getting a title shot. It's like, why would you take the risk? And
Sure.
Yeah.
Like Islam Makhachev had that same problem. Can you hear me right now?
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He didn't really fight anybody in the top 10 until, what was it, like his last fight before his title fight, if I remember correctly?
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same thing. He was like outside the top 10 and obviously a very good fighter. And like you said, why would you take that risk?
I'm pretty sure Chimaev had the same issue. And everybody was, you know, surprised that Gilbert Burns took that fight with him because Gilbert had nothing to gain and everything to lose.
Yes.
So,
No, yeah, that was a pure, like, unadulterated risk for
Yeah.
him. Yeah. No, and that's one thing I think that really is really difficult to deal with on that stuff, you know, sometimes because it's like it's still a sport, you know, and it's fighting. So like, you know, you get hurt. So it's like, okay, if I think I'm on the cusp of like a title shot or an interim title shot, it's like you want to stay active fighting, but it's like what is the level of risk you're willing to take in a fight that isn't like a guaranteed next step up fight? And but there's no formula to it, you know. It's not like a wrestling tournament where it's like you just go to the next one and, you know, wrestle again or whatever, you know. It's like you might never make it back around there.
right. Oh, two fighters came in heavy. Let's see who did not make weight.
Uh-oh.
Well, the good thing is that all the top four made weight, so that's solid.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know either one of these fighters. Clydeson Rodriguez? Let's scroll down here. Yeah, the guy from Brazil there, Clydeson Rodriguez, he was heavy, 2 pounds over, so he lost 20% of his purse. And Tukagov, the guy from Russia, I guess he
Zuba
was
missed weight.
over. Yeah,
Jeez, that's because he's one of the Eagle fight team guys.
he was 2.5 pounds heavy.
Wow.
So he got fined as usual. I mean, so
Because he got kicked out for a while for the Conor McGregor stuff when Khabib beat him.
oh,
Because he was the other guy.
really?
He was the guy in the cage with him when like him and Conor were throwing
Oh,
punches and stuff like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
yeah. He
Interesting.
was. I think he was wearing a red shirt, but he was like the guy who you know, like Conor attacked whoever it was that ran in the cage, but that guy didn't attack Conor. So then Zuba was the guy who basically like started throwing punches at Conor, like after Conor had thrown punches at the other dude who ran in there, you know. And then yeah, it was a whole freaking scrum and mess. But
Yeah, it was. That was like old school. Who was that? The brothers, the Diaz brothers, when they got in that scrum in the ring way back in the day.
yeah,
Holy
like
cow, that was
Henzo when he ran in there and kicked what's his name in the face, and like at the end of like a pride fight, I'm trying to think of who it was he kicked in the face, but yeah.
yeah. It gets on occasion you get one of those. So, but yeah, I mean, scrolling through these fights, I wasn't really seeing anything else that was standing out. Doesn't mean they won't be good fights, but nobody of any. Oh, Tyson Pedro.
No, it's almost like a boxing card. Like you have one headliner
Yeah,
fight and then 14 fights that have no idea who they are.
right. Just filler.
Yeah. Well, originally Paulo Costa and Whitaker, I think, were one of the main fights on this card.
On this
I,
one.
yeah, and I can't remember how it fell
Okay.
through, but that would have been a great fight to see.
Yeah, that would be a great fight to see. Yeah,
If
and
Costa can make
Yair's.
weight, but
You're
Oh
right.
yeah.
What's his secret juice?
Jesus and acai, man.
So that's the excitement for tomorrow. Who do you guys have winning the Makachev and Volkanovski fight?
I think that's a tough one. I'd like to see Volkanovski win, and I'm basing that. I heard Dean Thomas talking to somebody earlier, and he was saying that if Volkanovski wins, there's a chance that a rematch happens at some point. But if it's the opposite, it's unlikely that Volk will get to come up and fight him again. So I like that idea.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
This is a
I have trouble believing it'll be that competitive. Honestly, I think Islam probably wins it pretty easily. I just I don't know. I can't like Volkanovski's like good at what he does, but one he's never faced. The only two wrestlers he faced, Darren Elkins and Chad Mendez, are guys who don't really wrestle like as a significant part of their game plan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you watch the fight with like Max Holloway, and Max Holloway is an absolute stud. There's no question. But Holloway's really, he's basically one dimensional. Like he doesn't really kick much. He doesn't really clinch. He doesn't do any wrestling stuff. And Volkanovski did a very good job of, using like his low kick stuff and doing well in punching range. But Makachev punches and kicks a lot in combinations. He's obviously an exceptionally good grappler. He's very big. Yeah, I honestly like. I would be surprised if it was really competitive. because it's the other thing too. This always drives me crazy during like fight camp stuff for fights. Is it's like, obviously like Volkanovski's been training his wrestling for years and stuff like that, but they're always like, oh, we brought in such and such wrestler for this camp, and I'm like, that's cool. That dude grew up in Dagestan, has been wrestling for the last 25 years straight with people who grew up in Dagestan, which is where the best wrestlers in the world come from. That region. It's like you don't do a 12-week fight camp and you're like, hey, I think I'm wrestling ready. Like it just doesn't work that way. Like that was like
Right.
that was a big thing with the Charles Oliveira fight was they brought in one, I can't think of his name, but a very good Iranian wrestler and a guy who used to is trained with like Islam and Khabib and the Eagle Fight Club guys before, and was using that to prep, and they were like you saw him doing like significant training to deal with Islam really likes from that overhook, doing the Uchimata into the Harai Goshi, like step across, like trip, and like doing a lot of stuff. And what's he do? First time they get clinched up, times a knee, Harai Goshi, straight, like just like he does to everybody. I'm like, sorry, bro. Like it's just like you don't bring a guy in for a fight camp and get on that level. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it doesn't. You're right. I was trying to find something I saw yesterday. It was very interesting. Someone had a statistic, a graphic, like an infographic, and it was comparing the number of significant strikes that Islam has absorbed his entire career, which is fewer than Volkanovski absorbed in the fight with Max Holloway.
Wow.
And it was like 107. I remember that number. It was like 107 significant strikes is all Islam Makhachev has absorbed, whereas it was either 117 or 127 significant strikes is what Volkanovski absorbed just fighting Holloway.
And that's what
Hey, KJ.
that's what like the dedicated wrestling and grappling game plan like does, because it's like if Islam stood up with people more, he'd have more he'd absorb more significant strikes, but he doesn't. When he takes guys down, he tends to control them very well, and that is the aside from the damage you can cause, one of the best reason you take a guy down is so he can't do stuff to you, like at least strike wise for the most part.
Yep. Absolutely.
I saw his average fight time for Makhachev too was something like 9 minutes and 6 seconds or something like that. So
Wow.
he's getting most of his fights done early on.
It would be interesting to see if it was a fight that had to go to decision. That's the only way that I see Volkanovski being able to win. Would You'd have to kind of survive the grappling exchanges and the clinch exchanges early, and then especially when they get really slick and really like hard to hold later, and then able to outpoint him, because we've just never seen like Makhachev fight 25 minutes. And Volkanovski has very good conditioning. So that would be like kind of the the thing. And it's like in Volkanovski, Max has like an iron chin, but like Volkanovski he's a volume puncher. So there's a lot of people who've kind of been like, oh, he's gonna have more power at 55 than 45. And it's like that might be true, but like he doesn't like one shot sleep guys at 145. So it's like you kind of gotta temper your expectations, I think, with some of that.
I think everything you had said
Right.
earlier about how you expected Islam to dominate the fight is kind of what I'm worried about. But my hope is that those smaller fighters, they tend to like scramble and get up so quick, and they're shorter. And I'm just hoping that he's going to be like a Mighty Mouse, and every time he lands on his back, he's up on his feet in 2 seconds. Hard to imagine against someone like Makhachev, but that's what my hope is. So it'll
And
be
it's kind of one of those where like I think Volkanovski's fantastic. I like him a lot, as a fighter. I mean, I personally, I like the Dagestani guy's style, so I would say I'm rooting for Islam, but it's just it's kind of one of those. It's like hard to pick a way that you think this kind of has to go one specific way for Volkanovski to win, which is that he has to be flawless in not only like the grappling stuff, but particularly the transitions out of that. Because like, one thing that, like Khabib and that Islam, those guys are really good at is front headlock stuff and body lock attacks, especially when a guy's like trying to get back up, and that's where you give up your back, where you give up, you know, choke positions and stuff off of that. So it's just asking an awful lot to be like, hey, like you have to be flawless for an entire fight, and if you do get taken
Right.
down, you can't get beat up to the point that it like adversely affects your ability to cause damage on the feet.
Yeah, and Makhachev's a big dude. I know he got knocked out once, but he's just a big dude. So it kind of reminds me of the middleweight champ. Why am I drawing a Pereira? As
Oh
big
yeah.
as he is for 185,
That dude is
Makhachev
a
isn't quite
monster.
that. He is. He's a legit heavyweight fighting middleweight. It's ridiculous. But, Makhachev it could probably fight 170 without
And
an
that's
issue.
I kind of wonder. I think if he wins, especially if he wins convincingly, I could see him fighting like at welterweight. I mean, I think he'd beat Leon Edwards. I think he'd beat Leon Edwards pretty easily, actually. I mean,
I do
Kamaru
too.
Usman was just absolutely starching him, and for some reason, after winning 4 rounds, 10-8, 10-9, he decided he was just going to stand up in the fifth round, and at the very end of it, got kicked. It's like, dude, just take him down again, and like you win that, and it's not even competitive on the scorecards whatsoever. Like,
Right.
Certainly made it
Absolutely.
interesting though.
yeah. Well, and I didn't watch that fight. It was one of those where like I was like watching the like I'll go to like what the hell's the name of this? Oh, it's like Dog, and like there's like people who do like the play by play. So like I'll go there and
Yep.
I'll read the play by play. So I'm always like, oh, okay, scroll to get down towards the end, and it's like, and with 12 seconds left, Leon Edwards lands a kick to the head, and Kamaru's out cold. I was like, okay, wait. I was like, all right, reread that, make sure that you like read the names in the correct order. And I was like, oh shit, okay then. Like,
Yep. Exactly. It's funny. I go there too. I'll even go back to Sherdog, after the fights are over to read some stuff I may have missed. So
I like it,
interesting.
to see, because sometimes, like your thinking might be like off, or you're like, man, am I the only one who saw that like round differently? Um, so I like to go read some of that stuff sometimes too. And it's also like words, like written words, can have a very different effect than like the thing that you see. Because you could write something that's absolutely like completely correct as far as the words used, but the way that you use the words, the particular adjectives and adverbs and stuff you use, it could make it sound like, oh, this dude's just landing at will, because you'll see stuff like that. It's like, oh, like Joel continues to, to pump that jab, and that jab's really effective for him. But then you watch the fight, and it's like the dude landed 4 jabs in 67 seconds, and you're like, well, okay, it was effective, and he continued to land it. But it's like, are we really going to say that much about like the dude landing like 4 rangefinder jabs in a minute or whatever? And
Right.
Nothing like watching it, I suppose.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Now, going back for a minute, did you guys see the Jamal Hill Glover Teixeira fight?
yeah.
Yeah.
I've never seen a dude take such a beating and it looked like he was ready to go for another 5 rounds, even though he didn't win.
Yeah, it was
Glover took a
incredible.
beating.
I was sad to see him retire because I feel like he can still beat a lot of the top guys, but he is older, and like Dana says, when you're thinking about hanging it up, it's probably time to hang it up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean
hard
it.
watching fights like that because it's like you can literally watch a dude taking years off of his life, like in the
Yeah,
middle of the fight there, and it's like there's the part of me that like especially coming from like watching boxing stuff is like dude, I kind of hope the referee just stops it. It's like I get it, it's a championship fight and the dude's trying to go out on his shield or whatever, but you're like, and I get it. He was like reasonably competitive, like he was obviously still like offensively like aggressive, like up to the very end. But I mean, like he probably cost himself 5 years off of his life in that fight. Like no exaggeration. Like there's just
Yeah,
like I mean, how many like landed strikes did he take? It's like 200 and some. You
it
know,
was nuts.
as a
I mean,
light heavyweight, like
how many leg kicks did he take to the grape? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. You know, he absorbed
flush.
like over 200 like significant head strikes. It's just like, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a beating. Holy cow. I was
Brian
surprised.
Ortega's like that. I feel like half the fights Brian Ortega's in, if he doesn't submit him early, he just gets beat to a pulp. But he has such a great chin, he never gets knocked out or finished.
I remember the number because when he fought Max Holloway, he absorbed 209 significant strikes to the head in the Holloway fight because
Wild.
it was just such a like prominent number. I was like, it was so fucked up. Like,
Yeah.
and they could have stopped that one like a round or two earlier, and it would have been
Yeah,
perfectly
no one would
fine.
have
You know?
complained. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's like it's kind of the tricky part about fighting because I think it was a Chael thing that I saw. Like I don't watch his podcast that much. I used to catch it a little bit more, but it was like because the whole point of fighting is to basically determine who the better fighter is. And there's a lot of fights where like that gets accomplished after like the first round. So you could legitimately be like, hey, dude, you're just like this guy's. He exists on a different level. Cool, come back, try again later. And I think it would be okay. But then the problem with like fighting is like technically speaking, you could land that, accidental, knockdown freaking shot at the end of the fight or whatever. So it's like, guys want to stay in there where it's like, there's the part of me is, especially like lower level MMA is almost like, hey, you should kind of just have like, if you go out and like, if the first round is a 10-8, that's just the end of the fight. Like, cool. Save your strength, go train, come back, try again. No harm, no foul, versus like, hey, college kid, go get your brain bashed in for a while.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
reminds
for
me
sure.
of the Volkanovski and the Korean Zombie. Like the Korean Zombie
Dude.
was clearly outclassed like
Yep.
early on.
Yep.
Man, for a couple extra rounds, he took a bad beating.
No, I think that's exactly it
Volkanovski took
too.
his foot off the gas.
Well, and that's one. Even if it was like at the end of the third round, when like, hey, you could be like, listen, he's definitely won all three rounds. Like maybe you could even like have that like, if the guy has won like all three of the first three rounds in a 5-round fight, and at least one of them is like 10-8, just cool. Because like, especially Korean Zombie, like that guy's whole career has been like how hard he is to knock out. It's like, all right, cool, you're gonna die at age 50 from CTE. It's like great.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder because I mean, obviously I guess the ref could stop it, but he's probably not going to because you could have the Leon Edwards head kick with 12 seconds left. The fighter's probably, especially not a Korean Zombie, he's not going to stop fighting. He's not going to quit. So then, do you look at the corner as being the ones who should be stopping these?
Yep. Yep. Should definitely be the corner.
Yeah, and I agree. But then, I wonder, do they not because they don't want to quit on their fighter?
I think that's part of it, and it's much less a part of the sport of MMA than it is in boxing. Like in boxing, it's much more common. And it's more like kind of like no, I mean normal. Like that's happened at like like you go back to like Frazier and Ali. Like Frazier, like his corner like called it when he was on the stool. With what like a round or two left. And that's like one of the biggest fights in the history of all fighting, and that like and nobody thinks like that Joe Frazier got robbed, in that. But
Right.
in MMA, like nobody does that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's because the one that always comes to mind when I think about that, and it's a guy who's local, is Anthony Smith. Like he's an Omaha guy, and he used to train at the same jiu-jitsu club that I train at now. Before we kind of had like two of our instructors like split, and when he had like the Glover fight, like and he said, I forget exactly what he said, something like, oh, like my teeth are coming out or whatever it was, like at that one
Yeah.
point, and I was like, and especially because he's articulate and he's got like a career like on the microphone that's definitely going to make him money for a long time to come, more
Yeah.
than likely, and so I was like, man, like when I was like, man, he should just stop fighting because it's like, you have nothing left to do but get hurt. And then especially like in a fight like that, it's like, it's like because he had the John Jones fight and the Glover fights where he basically just got overwhelmed and was just getting beat up, but basically couldn't get finished. I was like, your corner's got to stop that, because like you came here to have a test of who was the best, and the other guy proved it at a point when you could have still avoided, most of the damage of that fight and come back to fight another day.
And he's about to fight Walker.
Yeah.
So that's going to be another fight where it's going to be a knockdown, drag out, striking
Yeah.
war. So he's taken a lot, and he's also the guy who had an MMA fight in his house with the guy who was on some drug and
Something
came in his
anyways,
house. Yeah. He said it was the hardest fight of his life. He said he hit him with everything he had, and the guy was still standing, and he wasn't even a big dude. I was like, oh my God, I can't imagine. Some dude comes in your house, and here you are fighting for your life.
Well, that's one thing I always try to because you can't you can't put yourself in the mindset, but it's like, for all the things that we all do with home defense this, or I'm going to carry this gun that, or I keep a flashlight by my bed this, or my family's self-defense plan is, it's like, all right, when you wake up in the morning for work, what do you personally feel like when you wake up? And I do not wake up like, all right, let's fucking rock and roll right now. I've snapped awake like pretty hard a couple of times when like my dog's giving me the hey, I hear something that ain't just a freaking squirrel outside kind of bark. But yeah, I'm in no condition to just instantly be, going at it.
I used to take my gun off and put it away when I was home. And then I was at home one day, and about 20 minutes early, I hear one of the kids coming through the front door, and I'm like, oh, well, that's weird. He's home about 20 minutes early. And I'm looking, and I'm not seeing anybody yet. And then finally, I'm like, why is the door not shut? And I stand up, and some random stranger starts walking through my house. And I look at him, and I'm like, what are you doing? And actually, I didn't say that. Had a few other choice words in there. And he didn't actually look at me. He just looked straight ahead. You could tell the dude was on something. And immediately I was like, are we about to go to town? And he was like, I'm waiting for somebody. But he literally walked straight through my house from front to back, right out the back door, and started walking down the deck. And my next thought was, oh my God, my Great Dane's going to run out the front door. So I ran to shut the front door. My Great Dane ran out the back door after the dude. He slung open the gate. My dog bit him before he got through the gate. So I'm like running down there, shutting the gate, trying to keep my dog in. I walk outside. Dude's nowhere to be found. Then I find out he randomly punched a dude in our subdivision on the street, some 50-year-old dude, and this guy's a college student. The older guy chases him down, wrestles him. They call 911. The dude goes berserk in the back of the ambulance, all kinds of stuff. But it's like you literally never know when you're going to have a situation. So that has actually made me rethink what I do at home now.
Wow.
No, for sure. I had not exactly similar, but when I was in college, I lived with like two of my friends that I worked with, and I'll always remember this because it just happened to be, it was like Wednesday night. Well, technically it was like Thursday morning, but it was like 2:46 a.m. And because my alarm clock sat on my bed towards my feet because I didn't have a shelf or anything, and my door was open just a crack. And it was one of those times where like I woke up for no reason in the middle of the night, look out in the hallway, and the lights were on, and there were three people standing like on the landing like of the stairs. And up in the upstairs of the house that we rented, there were 3 bedrooms and there was a bathroom. That's it. There's no other rooms up there. And my first thought was like, because my one buddy Ziegler, who I lived with, like, he was like playing World of Warcraft. He was in that phase of his life or whatever. And I'm like, son of a bitch. Like, did he invite people over to drink, on like a Wednesday freaking night? I got class in the morning or whatever else. And so I'm kind of staring out there for like a second. And then I see Ziegler like kind of walk out the door of his room, because his room was between myself and them. and I mean on the other side of the hallway, and he's like, "Who the fuck are you guys? Like, get out of here!" And the guy, that's what the guy in front, he goes, "We're looking for so and so," and I forget what name he said. And Ziegler's like, "Yeah, he doesn't live here. Like, get out." And the guy's like, he's like, "No, we're not fucking going anywhere until you tell me where so and so is." And so Ziegler like kind of puts his arms up, kind of like sort of like to corral him down the street, and the guy kind of like puts his hand out and like checks him in the chest, and he's like, "We're not going anywhere." And I was like, I disagree with that. And so I run out there in my boxers with my freaking shotgun, and
Oh, there you go.
and it was so stupid because like the guy at like the top of the stairs, he kind of like like bowed up to me, and I just like smacked him in the face with that freaking shotgun. And the guy behind him goes, "Oh fuck, shotgun!" And I all start running down the stairs, and I was like, and I had my first German Shepherd at the time, Dietrich, and Dietrich was the killingest animal I've ever met in my whole life, most confrontational animal I've ever seen. And normally he sat down by the front door, and I'm like, "Where's he at?" I'm like, "Dietrich," and I hear him like kind of like his collar like jingle in my bedroom. Well, what had happened was like he had gotten in the trash right before bed, and I'd yelled at him. And when I went in my room to like change into like shorts to go to sleep, he snuck into my room and was like sleeping in the corner. And he's like really black, so like I didn't see him over there. And I'm like, "Get out here!" And so he runs out and just starts biting everybody as they're running down the stairs. And the one guy's like, "Tell him to stop biting us." I was like, "No, keep biting him." And they all run outside, and then like we were kind of like, I'm like, "Dude, what the hell was that?" There's just like three people in the stairs. And so we were kind of like looking out the window, and apparently, they were like looking for the neighbors next door to like party at their house. And it just so happened that like the two girls that rented the house next to us were two white girls named India and Asia. So you can kind of get a sense
Oh my
of
God.
what what side of the proverbial spectrum they operated on. And I was like,
Right.
okay, so that almost went like really frickin' south there, but
Wow. Yeah. Be careful whose house you walk into unannounced.
dude, and all the lights were off. Like literally, only the hallway light in the upstairs hallway was on. And we didn't lock the door because normally we normally had two German shepherds sleeping downstairs, so we just never really cared about it. But yeah, they just never knocked. Walked into a house with all the lights off, and just walked upstairs at like 2:46 a.m. You're like, okay.
Good Lord.
Jeez.
Wow. Goodness. Do you have any a good self-defense stories there, Joel, while we're at it?
No, sorry, I was laughing to myself because the closest thing I have is it was Halloween one year, and we were living in an apartment, and we forgot it was Halloween, and we're cooking dinner, and we turn around, and there's this like 10-year-old fat Asian kid in our kitchen. Like, "You got candy for me?" And we went and looked like for some canned food to give him because that's all we had.
Oh my gosh.
Like, what a strange question to ask somebody. Like,
Yeah. We were just
Trick or
like, "Where did this
treat?"
kid come from?"
Oh, that's funny.
that's ballsy on his part. Just like, listen, it's
Yeah,
Halloween.
right.
Like, I'm going in that house. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't a great neighborhood either, so I think we made it out all right.
Wow. Now, getting getting back to MMA, Ngannou leaves the UFC. Apparently, they were in negotiations and that broke down. Um, I don't know if you guys have seen, but he is. Did you hear what the? Let's see here. Where's it at here? Oh, Deontay Wilder. Whoop, that went the wrong place. Come on. Deontay Wilder has offered to sign a 2-fight contract with Ngannou to do one of them being a boxing match and one of them being an MMA match. He said, "You come fight me in a ring boxing, and I'll come to a cage and fight you MMA."
I mean, that'd be the most money Ngannou ever made in a fight. So, yeah. Like,
Yeah, maybe Deontay too. I mean, who knows? I know the
I
big
have
money
to think
fight.
his Tyson Fury fights were extremely lucrative, but I don't actually
Oh
know the
yeah,
numbers. So,
yeah, true. And I mean, that's really where the big money is going to be for Ngannou if they can. I think it's what, April. They're looking at Tyson Fury fighting Usyk or his name, something like that.
Yeah, Alexander Usyk.
Usyk, yeah, that's it. And but later this year, I mean, I could see maybe. I think Francis was wanting like July time frame. July, yeah, July or August. But I mean, I guess that would depend on how long that other fight went and if Tyson Fury won it and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I don't know what that does. No, and if that happens, like I'll give props to Deontay Wilder because one thing I hate with the like people doing the like kind of almost celebrity call outs or whatever you want to call it. It's like they always do it like boxing matches. I'm like I don't like boxing isn't a fight. Like it's not the same. So if he actually did that, I think that'd be cool. And it'd be like a throwback to like what MMA like kind of started out as. Like the last time I
Right.
remember that happening was Randy Couture and damn it, what's his freaking name?
I'm blanking.
James
Yeah.
Toney. There you go. Lights
There
out.
you go,
Yeah.
James Toney. Yeah,
Yeah.
another old guy.
Yep.
That's how I'd see it going on the MMA side between those two. But what do you think about in boxing? I don't know much about
Ooh.
boxing, but I feel like the boxers hit harder, and it's their game that they've done for years. I feel like they just outclass MMA fighters in their own game.
It would
Yeah.
be difficult for me to imagine Ngannou beating him in boxing. Definitely. Now, granted, I
Yeah,
think he'd have a better chance against Deontay Wilder than he would against Tyson Fury, but
Yeah.
Yes and no. I mean, I think Deontay is very technical, and he's got a lot of length. He's got a crazy jab and in that straight right. I mean, he decked Fury with no issue. Now Fury sat up, but I mean, he's got one punch. His power is just as good as Francis, if not better. So, I
no, I
don't
think
see
I
it
think power
going
wise, you're
well.
completely right. Like I think the thing that Wilder doesn't have is he doesn't fight well moving away, and he's not particularly smooth at like dodging punches. Because like you watch the Tyson Fury fights, it's like as soon as he kind of gets slightly tired, slightly gets kind of like hit, he tends to be kind of he's kind of a like a defensive cannon. It's like it's always there, and he can erase. It's like the Teddy Atlas quote. He's like his right hand's like an eraser. Like every mistake he made in the fight up to that point, he lands the eraser. It doesn't matter. But he's not very. He doesn't have really slick footwork to avoid a lot of the stuff like that. But again, I don't think Francis isn't gonna cut the angles and be near as slick as Fury is on how he approaches
Right.
him either.
Right.
Absolutely.
I feel like that straight right is going to. I mean, I'm all for Francis making whatever he can in the short amount of time he has doing these things. So good for him. But I don't see a scenario where, I mean, unless there's always a puncher's chance where he just catches him at the right moment in the right spot and wins by flash knockout. Otherwise, I don't see him beating Deontay nor Tyson.
It'll be it would I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I can't imagine he's fought any fighters who had a reach advantage on him, and he would be giving up significant reach to both of those guys. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think he'd probably get picked apart pretty good, but we've never seen him hurt. So that's kind of it's one of those things where like until you see it happen, it's like sometimes in your brain it's like you can't imagine it happening. So like, I mean, I'd watch it like.
Yeah, absolutely. I do
Yeah,
see him getting
Wilder.
tired, though.
Wilder has a 83-inch reach. You know
Which
what
isn't even
though?
as long as John Jones's reach, which is
84
a
and a half.
ridiculous thing. Yeah, like
Yes. That's what I was
Deontay
about
Wilder
to
is
say.
6'7". Like,
I wonder what let me check Tyson Fury real quick because I'm curious what his reach is. I don't feel like his is going to be any longer. Oh, somebody with a longer reach than John Jones.
yeah, well, he's 6'9", so there you go. Like,
And he's got a half-inch reach advantage, 85
yep.
inches. That's long. All right, now just as a matter of and of course I don't see a reach for Ngannou. 80. Oh, they're saying he has an 83-inch reach. So same as Wilder. Okay. So not too bad then. So speaking of Jones, him and Cyril gone for the heavyweight champion of the world, heavyweight championship of the world. This is going to be interesting. I don't know. I haven't seen any videos of John doing any type of sparring or anything like that, so I'm not sure what the added weight has done. But he didn't put it on quickly. He took the time and put it on slowly. So I don't know if that helped him with maintaining some of his speed, flexibility, that type of thing. But it's going to be an interesting fight.
Well, he's probably a guy who probably fought at 240 as a 205er anyways. I mean, he's like all of 6'4". He's a humongous guy. Like how those
Right.
guys make 205. I mean, I'm 230 right now. Like I don't. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like,
Yeah, I mean, let's see here. Jones. Let's see. We can pull up here.
Hey, Dave. Better late than never.
Oh, we hear you. We don't see you.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi out here is not the best, but at least I can hear you now. Finally, I
Okay.
found a room.
Okay.
it's good. We've just been waiting the whole time. Actually, we haven't even started yet.
Perfect.
Oh,
If I had known that, wouldn't have rushed so much. Would have been run around here. Now I'm sweating. This isn't cool. It's supposed to be my night off. I'm supposed to be a spectator tonight.
you're going to be spectating from the corner, right?
Yeah, back behind it, they have two guys that go up on the cage, so our coaches will be up there, and we're back here, have to make sure he's warm and being errand boys, whatever he needs. So
Okay. So, for the record, I'm going to clarify this now. Mr. Crosby at one time was a black belt in BJJ. Went to a different school, had to start over. So the last time we talked, he was a brown belt working towards regaining his black belt. And then apparently, without letting me know, because, he's got to do these things, he didn't tell me that he was a new black belt. So I put brown belt up in public.
well, I was mainly giving you some crap for just completely disregarding the karate black belt because everybody else does. So we talked about that last time. So I was like, it just doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, you're right. That is true.
Oh,
All
like what's
right.
karate? Is it in the 90s?
I'm trying to
The first
see.
black belt's the toughest one, so you get that one out of the way. Oh,
And
away.
he's gone.
Oh, I wanted to mention to him that karate's making a comeback, and I wouldn't let my kids watch the Karate Kid because I don't want them to get interested in it.
That's funny. Yeah, 6'4" with a wingspan of 84.5 inches. That's crazy. So who do you guys think wins that? I mean, Cyril Gane is a world-class striker. But I feel like Jones, even though he's put on a lot of weight and moved up another weight class, I feel like his fight IQ is one of the highest out there.
Well, then, Gon, Gon had trouble wrestling Francis Ngannou, who's not a wrestler. John Jones is an actual wrestler. And when he wants to be, he's probably the best wrestler at 205, even better than Daniel Cormier. as far as like MMA. So like, there's the part of me that thinks if John Jones comes in and just wants to win the fight in a dominant fashion, which means he's going to implement a lot of his wrestling, a lot of his clinch stuff, versus just trying to sit back and be slick and look cool. I kind of think that it probably won't be that competitive, but I don't know. You never really know with John Jones.
Yeah. I'm curious, like you haven't heard much from him the last couple of years, so I don't know, who knows where his mind is or what. It's going to be an interesting fight just to see where is John Jones.
I also have this terrible feeling that like people tend to, I don't know, get hypnotized by John Jones or something like that and underperform. Like there's been a couple people who were outstanding against him, but a lot of times people just get in there and they don't do anything like you normally see them.
He's a legit boogeyman. I mean, and well deserved. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean,
and I could see like one thing I think that like Cyril Gane does and did very well against Ngannou was stay on the outside and just peck at him with kind of little shitty shots against the legs and stuff like that. And Jones has been susceptible. Like he got his legs hurt against Tiago frickin' what's frickin'
Santos.
Yeah, Santos, hammer on his chest,
Yeah.
dude. There,
Yeah.
got his legs hurt really bad. There and had a lot of trouble with Dominic. I mean, I think Reyes beat him. Reyes fights southpaw, and Gane can switch stances on that. So I mean, I think he can be successful, but he has to stay away from him. Like John Jones in the clinch, and John Jones if he takes you down, like his elbow game and his strike game from the top is the best. Like it's nobody's on his level.
Yeah, ask Mark Hamill about those elbows.
Yeah, and guys don't. They take a couple of them, and like the fight's over. That's it. Like it's it's something.
Well, he's got a nasty little front kick too. So, and with his length, I could see him hitting Gane with those front kicks to the belly and the chest.
I'd be interested if they have like an over under, like when John Jones pokes him in the eye. Like, is that going to come in the first?
Yes, yeah. The number of eye pokes suffered in every John Jones fight is a real thing.
It's only his fights too. It's shocker how that happens. It's almost like he throws it out there.
Yep.
Just every fight.
Yeah,
I want to see if Gane can get up when he takes him down. Because he's going to get taken down if they go 5 rounds. It's just if he can get back up, and how effectively and efficiently can he get back up.
I'm kind of curious.
Go 25 minutes with John Jones. John Jones will take you down,
dude. And the amount of damage that he tends to inflict on guys from the top of their guard in such a quick fashion. And like Gane, like man, I honestly thought that Gane had the fight won against Francis. And I can't. Was it the 5th round? I think it was the 5th round, where like whatever grappling exchange they ended up in, but Gane ended up on top. I thought if he just stayed on top, did enough to not get stood up, he wins the decision. But then he steps in and kind of sits back for that really crappy leg lock attempt, and then and he was inside of closed guard, so he didn't even have, like single X or like a whatever the hell fancy Japanese word that is, ashy whatever. But he didn't even have that set up. Like he sat back from full guard. Yeah. And then basically, Francis kind of like pulled out of it, got on top, and spent the rest of the round on top, and then won that. And I was like, I feel like that was like just such an unbelievably low fight IQ, like move to pull that it cost him the fight.
Yeah. And that's where I think, Jones is going to have a huge advantage.
Yes. Yep.
I'd just be curious to see how he does versus someone that big and strong. He ain't that 205 to that fight someone even Gane size, that 250 frame. That'd be interesting if he is because Santos and them are big dudes, but that new frame and that extra weight, I'm curious to see how he handles that 250-pound frame of Gane's, if he does hold him down as easy as he has people in the past.
Or what his conditioning's like. I mean, obviously he's been training, but he's been out for a couple of years, and it's like, it ain't the same thing as like getting in legit fight shape, and however, what's he been at, like 3 years since he fought? You know, I mean, realistically, he should have gotten into fight shape probably once or twice a year during that time that he hasn't had to. So,
Yeah, I can't
Let you
I
remember
don't
who
know.
know.
said it.
Yeah, he's,
There was some
hopefully he
analyst
makes it to
talk-
the fight without getting arrested.
It's in Vegas, right?
He's got like 3 arrests in Vegas. Like he doesn't even live there.
Yeah, he almost shouldn't go to Vegas.
No, I saw it was in Vegas. I'm like, does that change the odds? Like the fact that it's in
Yeah.
Vegas, like who's
as long as he
keeping the
gets
lid on
arrested
him?
after the fight, like, you know, we get a good fight and then we get a John Jones arrest story. We call that a good fight card, you know, like.
That's all they care about. I mean, he's got his 8 or 9 fight deal, whatever. He doesn't care.
Now his last fight was February 8th of 2020 against Dominic Reyes. That was his last fight.
It's exactly 3 years, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he lost that fight, you know, but kind of got gifted the decision out of it. But he was very strong at the end of that fight too. But it's like, yeah, who knows what he's been doing in the 3 years since.
And I feel like his fights really depend on where his mind has been. Like when he went in focused against Daniel Cormier, he throttled him. But when he didn't do as well. So he's one of those that, you know, makes you wonder when he fought those guys. He fought Anthony Smith, followed by Thiago Santos, followed by Dominic Reyes, all decisions.
And
And the
none of those with
Santos,
anywhere near the striking of Gone is the only thing.
right, correct. So it just makes you wonder. But the fight before that was the no contest against Daniel Cormier, who he had beaten. So,
And I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see John Jones come in like hyper motivated for this, you know, new weight
yeah,
class, kind of take some time. I mean, I can't. I mean, I've been around fighters for like a long time, but like I've never been around somebody who exists at that level of the sport for a long time. And it's like that is a terrible way to go through life, you know, like having to deal with all that stuff. So it's like you can kind of see like why these guys have issues. So like I would not be surprised if he came back and was just ready to frickin' rock.
yeah. And how much has the 3 years matured him? You know, I mean, he's 35, going to be 36 in July. You know, I wonder if his brothers have had any ability to kind of keep him on track and talk to him and keep him focused. I don't know.
Guess we're gonna find out. What's the date on that one?
Next week, I believe. Let
Is
me
it?
go
Oh
back.
damn.
Oh, March 4th.
March 4th.
March.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah, I thought it was March.
3
I was like, man, is
weeks.
it
Yeah,
next
3
week
weeks.
already? Like,
Yeah. 3 weeks.
Right around the corner.
I meant next month. What am I thinking?
listen, it's close enough. February, there's a couple fewer days than normal, you know.
All right. So the other big news is Conor McGregor coming back and fighting Michael Chandler.
Yeah, that's exciting. You know,
That is exciting.
Talking about John Jones, I'm not a huge. I don't like the idea that people get so high up that they take a fight like once every year or every 2 years, or Jones now 3 years, and however long it's been for McGregor. Like it's, I don't think it's the best. Or maybe you do. Maybe when you get older, maybe that long time off, you get to get a lot of training in, and your body heals, or whatever the case might be. But
Well, Connor keeps losing, so he's got to be careful.
Yeah.
Connor
Yeah.
hadn't won a fight since that, except for those shoulder strikes for Cerrone. So Connor's got to be careful. Like, I mean, he kind of slid by because he lost it, Nate, and he came back, and then he was kind of like there was a streak there where he made he was on Forbes top 5 athletes or top 2. I think he might have been highest, and he hadn't won a fight that year. It's like, how the hell?
And
Did
I think
that
he's
happen?
lost 3 out of his last 4 at least, because Poirier
Yeah.
twice, and Khabib obviously.
Yeah. And if you count the boxing match versus Mayweather, that
Yeah.
was the somewhat boxing match.
So his last 7 fights, he's 3-4. He lost to Diaz. That was the 7th fight, furthest back. Then he beat Diaz. He beat Alvarez. Lost to Khabib. Beat Donald. Lost to Dustin twice.
I was wondering earlier today, like if he loses to someone like Michael Chandler, is that it? Like, does he hang up the gloves at that point?
I think there's still plenty of money for him to make, so I would say no. But I think it's just like Chandler. They're going to pick and choose and pick someone who would be a good fight because I'd like to see him and Gaethje. I think Gaethje crushes him, but that's me.
He's
Well, in a
such
way,
a
he's
name.
kinda-
He's such a name. He won't go away till he wants to. He's still gonna. He could probably lose this fight and 2 more and still get, the highest, some of the highest pay-per-view ratings the UFC's ever seen. He owns like the top 4 highest pay-per-view sales, or 3 of the 4,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of his body to use. I mean, it's one of those. He's another one of those guys where like the exact opposite reasons are like when we were talking about like Anthony Smith and those guys earlier. It's like, I think his total takeaway from the Mayweather fight, all said and done, was like $100 million. Plus, he's got like his media company stuff now and his whiskey thing and other stuff like that. So it's like, man, like the smart money would be like, hey, under no circumstances fight anymore. Like train and have a good time and stuff. But it's like fighting is just the worst thing for your body. Like just freaking stop, dude. You're in your mid-30s. You got some kids. Like just be done with it.
Yeah,
Yep.
box
Yeah,
once
he'll-
every couple years.
Yeah, well, and that was kind of the thing I was talking about, with some of those guys. Like, man, like go do like jujitsu competitions, stuff like that. Something I get it. Like I'm 37 and still compete, in shooting and jujitsu stuff all the time. So I've got the drive, but it's like stop going and getting your brain smashed out.
Yeah, he's going to be 35 in mid-July. So, yeah, I mean, he's taken some damage lately, so probably not a bad thing to consider.
What do you think as far as the matchup, though? Like, if he was going to fight anybody in the top 5, is that the best matchup for him, for McGregor? Like, his best chance of winning?
That's a good question.
I see it. It's very comparable to like the Chad Mendez fight back when he won the featherweight, like interim or whatever it was. Because Mendez was a very short guy, a wrestler, but who didn't really use a lot of like control-based wrestling. I feel like Mendez is kind of very similar. Mendez is very aggressive. He's a good striker, but he's a short dude. And so I feel like he's going to give Conor a lot of chances to hit him, which is not a good thing. But
Right. So I'm looking at the top 5 right now. And the top 5, with Islam being the champ, you've got Charles Oliveira number 1, Dustin Poirier number 2, Justin Gaethje number 3, Benel Dariush at 4, Chandler at 5. And I think of the 5, Chandler's probably his best chance. Because Chandler likes to bang, so he's just going to stand there and go at it.
Yeah,
I
if he
think-
beats Chandler and then Islam turns around and wins, they can almost have another whole blowout sale. Because I wouldn't be shocked to. I mean, obviously Charles wants to shot the title. They gave it to him. He wasn't ready to come back, so he's going to fight Darush or whatever coming up. And obviously, if he wins, the winner of that should get the next shot. He should get another shot. But money-wise, I'm sure the UFC would love to have another McGregor versus Dagestan main event, and because that would probably it would be like almost as good as him versus Khabib too, almost. It would just blow up.
Looking at it from a strategic standpoint, a strategy standpoint, if you're Charles Oliveira, are you like, yeah, go ahead and make that fight, because if Conor does win, Oliveira's easily going to beat Conor for that championship. And if not, well, then maybe, it gives him more time to watch Islam fight and come up with a strategy to maybe beat him the second time.
Yeah, I mean, it could. I mean, his strategy the next time should be don't get hit in the face by a two down the center because his like he ate shots from Gaethje and those guys and came back and beat them, but they don't have the grappling of
Right.
Khabib and Islam and those guys. Like he was able to like pull himself back together, and when he got hurt in that first round, he just never came back. And then when he went down the second time and he wasn't all there, you know, you know that saying, black belt turns into a brown, turns into a purple, turns into a blue. Charles just turns into a lighter shade of a black belt, but still, that's was enough to get caught.
Yeah, and he gets
Right.
hurt by everyone. I actually like. Granted, you're talking about like he's got a plate in his leg. Super. Like a few years out of his prime McGregor. But I actually think McGregor probably beat Oliveira relatively easily because Oliveira, he's not a very good wrestler. He's a very good jiu-jitsu guy, but he gets hit and hurt by every single person. And McGregor has good power and wouldn't for a single second try to follow him to the ground. He just, you know. So it's the interesting thing about MMA, stuff with that because it's like you got like Poirier and Gaethje who are both very good strikers. Poirier is a relatively good grappler, but he's not a good wrestler at all. Gaethje should be a good wrestler, but he doesn't do any wrestling in MMA whatsoever. So he gets hurt and then can't deal with the ground stuff.
Now, Dariush, though, I feel is a good striker and he's got good grappling.
Yes, yeah.
So he's going to be someone that'll be interesting to watch and could probably easily win that. I thought I had something on here about him coming up. There is something. Hold on a second. I know it's a picture.
So
I
I kind of
thought
think
there's
he'd be the toughest fight for Islam of the guys sitting right now. He kind of reminds me a little bit of like Arman Sarukian. I think that was who it was, the Armenian guy that Islam fought several fights back, who was a very good wrestler. They had some of like the best like wrestling exchanges, like foot sweeps and stuff on the feet is really good stuff.
now it was announced recently. As a matter of fact, it was yesterday. Um, Preliminarily, it looks like it is Oliveira and Benel May 6th at UFC 288.
Nice.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I knew there was something. I was like, I've got news. I just can't remember what it was, but that's what it was. So,
Yeah, and Charles has brought in some bigger guys too, which he needs because he's got a great camp and he's just got all like he's like the biggest dude and the high level guys at his camp in Sao Paulo there. So they kind of brought in some heavier guys to this next camp for him that'll give him a chance to get some working with some dudes that are a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, which I think will help as well. 'Cause
now when you say bigger, are we talking 155ers, 170, or?
well, I mean, 155ers nowadays will weigh 185. So I mean, like Charles. So
Yeah.
a couple of guys from like Chris Nogueira's school, which is Valley top team. Some of his fighters that are really really good BJJ practitioners, but more Muay Thai guys. But there's a couple of those guys that are like middleweights
Mm.
and welterweights and stuff. But I mean, they probably walk around at over 200 pounds. So hell, Charles walks around at 180 to 190. So
Good Lord.
yeah, so I know he's got to be it's like whatever weight you are now. It's like pretty much plan on cutting 20, 30 plus pounds for especially the lighter weight classes. Like it was like that picture I sent you the other day of Alex standing next to Saint Pierre. It's like those
Oh,
two guys are
yeah.
the same weight class, like champion same weight class. It was like what?
Yeah, where? Oh, I closed it. Yeah, that was nuts. Yeah, he's way bigger than GSP.
Remember the
I
first
don't-
thing I noticed when I saw is one of the pictures of Pereira like standing next to somebody was how big that dude's hands are, and I was like, this is like I mean, I know he's 6'4", like listed or whatever, but like you look at the guy's hands and they look like they must be like that freaking big, like in his gloves. It's like, dude.
Yeah. There we go. I'll share this thing here in a second. Yeah, he's a big dude.
How does
I
that
can't.
work if you have different hand sizes and somebody's a giant and it's a 4 ounce glove? Do they just have a thinner
Right.
glove like it's closer to the knuckle?
Well, because that was, I remember like back in the day, that was one of the things that they were making a big deal out of when Brock Lesnar was fighting Shane Carwin, was that they had to have specially made gloves for Brock Lesnar because his hands were so big. But Shane Carwin was the first person to ever come in and need a glove size bigger than Brock Lesnar, you know, because they were like basically billing it, you know, as the fight of like the White Gorillas or whatever. But yeah, like, he's so big.
He's huge. He makes GSP look like a 155-pound guy. He's
I
huge.
mean, he
I'm
weighs
sharing.
230, weighs 235. So he's literally a middle. If he just fought at his walk around weight, he would literally be in the middle of the heavyweight division almost.
Wow.
Good Lord. Yeah.
Well, that's what you get when like half the fights now you weigh in like 36 hours before fight time. So
Jeez.
Do
Yeah,
you think they?
I cut 33 before, so I felt it. But you get, like you said, you got 36 hours, so it was literally back up to over 230. The dude I was fighting weighed almost 240, and we're both fighting at 205. I'm like, why the hell didn't we just take this and just be like, all right, let's just
that's
not cut weight, and let's
yeah.
just agree to call it 205, but not actually weigh in. Like, can we do that?
Right.
Can we like make a gentleman's agreement about this next time? Because this sucks.
No, well, that's kind of almost like what one championship is like. Like all of their weight classes are the same name, but they're like the weight above what would be in like UFC weight classes. You know, it's like if you fight at like lightweight, like you weigh in at 170, but you have to make like the hydration, like the specific gravity like test they do with like your urine for, you know, or whatever. Because exactly, you know, it's like yeah, okay, if we're both fighting at 205, but we both walk around at 225, like who gives a shit? Like,
Yeah.
Especially Alex, because man, that's why he's beat Izzy. I feel like those times he's had that just that size and strength. Izzy's always out techniqued him and outstriked him on that stuff, but he's fighting a dude. I mean, Izzy's like a little over 200 pounds, 210. He's fighting a dude that's just drastically bigger than him. Like, no wonder he hits him with a left hook in fourth or fifth round, or just like the kickboxing fights, and he's out. It's like he's fighting a dude that
Yeah.
should be a weight class or two up above him.
Yeah, for sure.
yep, that's the game.
It sure is. So, what do you guys think about that weight cutting thing? Do you think they should change it to make it more realistic, or just let it keep going as is?
It's kind of just people feel different, you know what I mean? Like you kind of guys come in the gym and it's like, you know, they weigh 225 and then you're grappling, you're like, man, they're strong, and then it's like,
Okay, we'll catch you when you get back. And I bring it up. I was listening to Paul Felder recently on the Joe Rogan Experience, and he said he believes he's caused damage to his kidneys with all the weight cuts he's gone through.
Oh, for certain. Yeah, like renal issues are like a known deal with that. And I know why you can't do it this way, but like if you compete in the IBJJF, like for jiu-jitsu, you literally like the only like you can't weigh in until so they have like a board and it has like 6 matches on the board or whatever on the mat that you're on, and you can't weigh in until your name appears on the board. So it's like so your name will pop up at the bottom of the board, and then as your match gets moved up, you know, like you move up. So as soon as your name appears, you can go weigh in, and then you basically go to the bullpen and wait. And you know, so obviously you can cut weight, but you can't do like the super water cut. I mean, I know why they can't do it for MMA because you could not have like a, you know, you couldn't have a John Jones versus Cyril Gahn, have the card, everything set, like all this or that, and then, well, granted they're heavyweights, but you know, it's like I used a bad example, but like,
No,
you know,
I know
but,
what you mean.
But then you have like, you know, John Jones steps on the scale and he's like 266.5. Oh, sorry, fight's off. You know, or whatever, like, you know, like 4 minutes before they fight. Like, I know exactly like why you couldn't do it, but I mean, something more along those lines would be a little bit, you know, at least would be healthier, anyways. But
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Well,
And
some
I
people's
mean,
bodies are different too. Like I don't think Izzy and those guys could cut that much weight. Like that would be like Izzy making it to 170. Like I just don't think his body could do it. Pereira is just water does that, and he's able to make it. And I don't think it's definitely a huge advantage on his point.
and Jr. When you cut out while you were gone, I was saying I listened to Paul Felder on the Joe Rogan Experience, and he believes that he caused kidney damage going through all of the weight cuts that he did. And looking back, if he knew then what he knew now, he would have done things differently. But does that mean if we know people are damaging themselves, should it go to like a 1FC or where you do a urine test, or should it be like Lane was just saying, like the old high school wrestling meets where you get there, the meet starts at 6, at 5 o'clock you're weighing in.
I like the way the 1FC does it. I mean, at least something, because it's gotten so out of hand, like these crazy weight cuts. But I mean, at the same time, guys are like, you're also getting in the cage for money with 4-ounce gloves versus another highly trained human being beating the shit out of each other. So like, we're not.
We're not sticking with the Wi-Fi very well.
I'm curious. So I assume that when he was cutting weight, he was mostly cutting water weight because he was always in very good shape. But it makes me curious about people like Patty Pimbleton or Max Holloway, like walks around at 200 and cuts down to 145. Like, what are
Well,
they?
and I'd heard somebody like some people that are either in or have been a part of Patty Pimblett's camp have talked about that like his camps are mostly like it's almost just like a fat camp. Like as opposed to like
Yeah.
like really
Yeah.
like getting like fight ready and adding skill and stuff like that. It's more like just getting the guy down to weight. Because I saw like his last fight against Jared, whatever his name was. I thought he lost that fight hands down, like no question.
Agree.
But
Yeah.
he's an Irish cash cow. But yeah, like, it's like I'm trying to think of who said it now. It escapes me, but that's basically what they said. Is because he gets so fat like outside of camp that instead of coming in and just like doing highly prepared stuff, it's like basically just trying to get the guy down to weight. So I think he
Yeah.
definitely caught up with him in the last one. But
Jared Gordon.
Gordon, there you go.
Yeah, I agree. I think Gordon won that fight.
Yeah. I haven't run into somebody yet that thinks Patty won that fight.
I haven't either.
That's because Patty definitely did not win that fight.
Yep.
And it was funny, like in the post-fight press conference, Dana White was shitting on Gordon, saying Gordon wasn't trying in the last round. And, like I don't know what he was watching, but
Wow.
I don't think it was.
Yeah.
Watching your new British superstar that's going to make you a lot of money.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And Lane, I heard the same thing, and I want to say, again, I heard it on one of Joe Rogan's episodes.
You're probably
with one
right
of the
about
fighters.
that. Like, yeah.
And I don't think it was. I know it wasn't Paul Felder. I think it might have been Bilal Muhammad, that episode.
Oh, it was. I remember it now. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I heard that too, and I was like, holy cow. Yeah, it's like all it is a fat camp, and it's like, that's crazy. Well, no wonder
And that's
it looked
the
like
really
that.
unhealthy stuff. Is like, I mean, like weight
Yeah.
cutting is obviously like bad, but like when you are like essentially purposely like ballooning up and then cutting it like that, like that's really bad. For that.
Yes.
And especially because the guy's young enough, it's one of those he's not going to notice it now, and then in 5 years, he's going to be absolutely wrecked from doing that dumb shit. And then it's also like how much are you adversely affecting your career by not just having better diet and general stuff, but it's like you're taking away, especially when you're like newer, you have to fight more often. So like you want as much time in the training room for skill acquisition as you can get, but if you basically have to go in the training room just to lose weight, and that's essentially like the whole focus. It's like that's obviously not good for your development.
Yeah, he's going to reach his peak pretty quick.
He gets up to
Now-
what is it, almost 200? What is it, almost 200 pounds?
I think so.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah. I heard he blows up to 200 pounds in between fights. And not muscular either.
Yeah, she's talking about losing 50 pounds. What's he losing? 25% of his body weight in the camp?
And you always see him
Somewhere
posting
roughly
pictures and
the
stuff
same.
of him like eating really shitty food and stuff like that. You know, it's like I guess if you gained a bunch of weight by eating steak and vesticles, damn it, vegetables, something like that. Because I don't know what my mind was thinking of there. That sounds like vesticles, but
We're going to have some plant testicles tonight.
That was the IBJJF coming out.
Oh, goodness, that was funny. Now, there are some other fights coming up that I'm interested in. I'm interested in this Nikita Krylov and Ryan Spann fight. I think that'll be a good fight.
When's that one
And
coming up?
that one's the 25th. That's in 2 weeks. And that's a fight night. So I don't know if that's on TV on an ESPN or if it's a ESPN Plus.
They're on.
But
Isn't it ABC or something now? Has it too? Or is that? Was the
yeah,
last,
they do.
The last couple. Have a couple of shows that are on ABC now.
Yeah, but this one is it is ESPN Plus. But there's the more intriguing.
What was the other thing they just changed to? Like now you don't have like the red corner and the blue corner. You have the prime hydration zone. Is that what that it's called?
Yeah.
Some weirdness. I don't get it. Now the other fight on this card in 2 weeks, I'm very curious about, and it's Tatiana Suarez. She's going to be making her debut, and I couldn't tell you when the last time she fought, but she won the Ultimate Fighter, and I think she was supposed to fight who just lost the belt to Wei Lang Ji.
Oh, Joanna?
No, not Joanna.
Rose, right? Oh,
What's
no, the Cookie Monster. What's her name?
Oh, Carla Esparza?
Yeah, there you go.
That
Yeah,
fight already
Carlos.
happened?
Yeah.
Shit. Okay, never mind.
Oh, she.
It was one-sided.
Well, that's I
Yeah,
assumed it would be. Yeah, like now I'm trying to
she
think if I watched it or not. I don't
beat
remember
the
it happening.
brakes off of her.
I mean, I assumed that's what would have happened. That's why. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I didn't watch it. But
She definitely cut some weight for that fight because there's no way those two girls are like she's way bigger than her. I saw that. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna be bad. And then she grabbed her. I'm like, yep, never mind.
well,
It's
Whaley's
been-
like legit good, and she's been training with Henry Cejudo for a while now. So her wrestling stuff's gotten much better.
Who's that?
It's been 4 years since
John
she's
Whaley.
Oh, okay. I think I've always liked Tatiana Suarez. Like I
Me
think
too.
she'd be a champ already if it weren't for it was a neck injury, right? That's kept her out for the past couple of years or something like
fought.
that.
I don't know if it was a neck or a knee or. Let me see if I can Google that. But yeah, there was definitely something that has. She's had some serious injury issues.
She
but
was huge at 115. Like she looked like she was 3 weight classes above all the girls she was fighting. So
well,
I
and she has a TKO victory over Carla already.
okay.
All right, here we go. Let me see if I can find out. Yeah, it's all injuries, but it doesn't say. Oh, she wants to fight Rose pretty bad because she's
I
heard
think
Rose. She's heard Rose might move up to 125, and she said I'd move up to fight her.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought Montana De La Rosa was a 125er. Didn't she just lose recently to Shevchenko? Or no? Am I mixing her up with somebody else?
De La Rosa.
Yeah.
I thought De La Rosa. I thought Montana was on the same Ultimate Fighter as Tatiana.
She was. I thought Tatiana was coming back and fighting at 125 for some reason.
I'll have to check. Now here it is. So we were both right, Joel.
Okay.
Initially, she had a neck injury, which sidelined her for 2 years. Then she was supposed to fight Roxanne Modafferi in 2021 and had a knee injury and had to withdraw.
Okay.
So 2 years with a neck, year and a half with a knee. And we were just talking about Montana. Let me look her up real quick.
Oh, you know what? I was mixing her up with somebody else.
Oh, okay.
I say, because was
Montana's the
Shevchenko's
one.
last fight the Brazilian
Oh,
chick, the grappler girl? I feel like Shevchenko has a fight coming up.
she does. Do 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 do. I'm try. Let me go back. She does have a title fight coming up in the not too distant future, and it is. Well,
But
shoot.
while he's looking, Lane, are you a fan of
It,
Tatiana? 'Cause she's a
I
I'll
good
be
think
fighter.
it's
honest,
the.
I don't think I know anything about her. Like,
Oh,
this
okay.
is you guys got this one. I'm like the
Maybe.
name sounds so familiar, but I'm like I honestly can't put a single fight with it. You know?
I want you to watch her because I think you'll love her. You like the grapplers, and
I
to me,
do.
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah,
she's like
I'll,
the Islam Makhachev of women.
nice. So I have like
from.
Valentina is like that is the pinnacle of femaleness for me is Valentina. I would have babies with her tomorrow.
I think most guys would.
There's be little
Now,
violent sons of bitches, but
she's the co-main event with John Jones and Cyril Gahn
oh, nice,
against
nice.
Alexa Grasso.
Okay.
I knew she was coming up. I just couldn't remember when. But yeah, Montana's been fighting at it looks like 125.
Okay. Yeah, now she sounds familiar. Isn't she the one that like vacated the belt because she didn't want to fight Shevchenko or something weird like that? Like
Now that
she.
was Nico Montano.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right, let me.
Because that was a girl who she won the belt basically from like a season of The Ultimate Fighter, and then the
Yeah.
first time she had to actually fight, they're like, no.
All right, let me. I'm
Which
gonna
was a good
change.
choice for her because that would have been a very one-sided affair, but
Yeah.
it's still kind of embarrassing.
Kenya De La Rosa.
All right.
I'm looking at her now. I think she's gonna get smashed by Suarez. Just one-sided. Beat down. Maybe first round.
So there she is. No odds yet, at least not on this page. But yeah, look, she's 8-0. She only has 5 fights in UFC, but she dominated everybody on The Ultimate Fighter. She's TKO'd Esparza, and she's a wrestler. And Esparza could not wrestle her, who she's a wrestler. So it's going to be interesting.
She's
Yeah, and it
also
looks
got
like.
really good judo.
Oh, does she really?
Yeah, she trained over. She trains. So my friend in Brazil, actually my head coach's sister, another UFC girl, Kalindra, has trained with her before. And a while back, they were talking about her coming back and how just dominant she is. Like, um, on takedowns, wrestling, judo type throws, and then they said like her 70 kilos or her side control. They call it 100 kilos for their side control. They're like, it's like she weighs 250 pounds on side control. Kalina said she's just crazy pressure, and yeah, that's gonna be dope that she's coming back.
Yeah, I'm super
Hopefully,
excited.
she's in the
Yeah,
same form she was before.
I agree. I'm hoping. If she is, she's going to be a tough one to contend with. Yeah, they're even
Start calling
showing
her the
her.
Lady Jacare.
Yeah, yeah, they're showing her old weight of 114 on here, and Montana De La Rosa being 125. So I guess Tatiana has moved up. Interesting. But that was the other fight coming up that I'm very interested in on that one card. Now, I will say the Cyril Gahn John Jones card is going to be. It's got a lot of really good fights on it. All right, where you at? Come on now. I don't want to play this game.
Yeah, it's got Shevchenko and DeGrasso, like you mentioned.
Yep.
And Jeff Neal and Shavkat Rachmanov. Rachmanov is my sleeper favorite.
Dude, Rachmanov's a stud. Now that could be a good fight.
That is going to be I see Jeff Neal going to sleep. You've also got Jalen Turner and Dan Hooker. That'll be a good fight. You got Bo
Well,
Nickel.
I think Hooker just. I think he's out now. Because didn't they just
Oh,
say
is
he had a
he really?
broken hand? I feel like I just read
Oh.
that today or yesterday. I think he broke his hand and is out.
Okay.
Dang.
Yeah. But you do have Bo Nickel going against Jamie Pickett. I don't know Jamie Pickett.
Oh, Penn State represent there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And this, to me, is going to be a very interesting fight at 185. I got to pull this one up. I got to share this one.
While you're pulling that up, I'll just add Jeff Neal's last fight was against Vicente Luque, and he knocked him out. And Luque has been looking amazing in his past 4 or 5
Really? Okay. But I like
Can we
this
all agree
fight.
that Dricus Duplessis has like the best name ever?
Yes. And I like that dude. I like watching him fight, and he's going to fight Derek Brunson. That's going to be a fight. And he's a pretty overwhelming favorite.
Wow. That's one of those things like we were talking about earlier, people not taking a chance fighting somebody outside the top 10. Like I don't know what Dreykus is ranked, but I feel like
10.
that's nice on Brunson's part to take that fight.
Brunson's 5 and Dreykus is 10.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't know
So I kind of feel like that might be a UFC thing saying, one of you guys is fighting this dude because he's probably going to be moving up towards a title fight.
Yeah, rankings get deceiving too. If Brunson for some reason beat him, then that's definitely gonna move Brunson up. Just because he's ranked number 10 doesn't mean Brunson's not gonna move up if he beats him. 'Cause that dude's nasty, and everybody. It's all rep.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the rankings, but they can only move him around so much. But it's all reputation, and
Right.
I'm sure they had to put. I'm sure they enticed Derek to. Plus, he doesn't have a lot of. He's got close to the title a couple times, so they're pretty much like, it's your shot if you want to keep working your way up. So we had to fight this kid.
Well, it's interesting with that because it's like you look at so his fight with Adesanya wasn't particularly close, but somehow Pereira managed to get out wrestled by Adesanya. So it's like, you wonder if there's a guy who, like, Izzy could easily handle, but if they could get in and wrestle Pereira, if that would, completely just chop up how all that works, because I mean, Israel's biggest mistake is that he wanted to win a kickboxing match against a guy who's a very good kickboxer, and he got what he wanted. He stood in front of him until he got cracked, and
Yeah.
He won 4 out of 5 rounds, except that all so important last round where you didn't stand back up from it.
Well, and that one was weird watching because I mean I thought Adesanya was outpointing him. I thought he lost. I think it was the first round or the second round, but it was like the whole time I was watching it, I always got the sense that anytime Pereira wanted to turn it on, he could crack him because he did a couple times throughout the fight, and then he kind of like sort of like backed away or took his foot off of the gas, but I don't know, I got the impression, I'm like, man, if he ever just decides to just not take his foot off the gas on one of those, I feel like he's could put him down. But
I think he was conservative. I think that weight cut is so hard; it's got to affect him at some level.
Got it.
Because he's it almost seemed like he was just not wanting to take his cardio to until Colin Light not blow his load and make sure he picked the exact right moment, which he did. That being the fifth round, but that weight cut's got to affect him at 185. Like,
Well, that was his first time fighting 5 rounds
so
too,
big.
so it's probably,
Yeah,
I mean, he got hurt at the end of what was the round where he
Round
got
one.
tagged like right at the bell.
Round one.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was like round 2 or 3 or whatever. After that, I thought he like he had Israel like stung a couple of times, but kind of just like hung back, and it kind of makes sense. It's like, hey, like how much do you want to sell out, or is he playing a little bit of possum, kind of throughout some of that, but.
And I think it's scary that his corner tells him you have to knock him out, and he just walks him down and starts banging him, and then the fight's over in the fifth round. I was like,
Yeah,
that
and
is
it's
a
and
scary
it's like
dude.
again, I thought Adesanya was on his way to winning the decision. I didn't think he won every round up till that
Pretty
point.
handily. Right.
But yeah, but the whole time I was watching it, I always thought that he was going to finish him if he just decided to. It just looked like that because he was able to just stand right in front of him, like and control the center so much when he wanted to, and Adesanya couldn't ever really back him away from that. I just never got the I just never got the sense that that Adesanya could keep him away if he didn't want to be kept away.
Yeah, I agree. It seemed like whenever he wanted to touch him, he could touch Izzy. And I was watching and I'm like, I've never seen anybody touch Izzy like this. Not even at light heavyweight, I didn't feel like Jan Blachowicz was touching him that way. I was like, this is different. This dude is completely different than anybody I've seen fight Izzy.
Well, his knees are stupid. Like you have to be so careful with where you keep your hands around a guy like that because he'll step in with that like high knee, that jumping knee stuff, and it just
Yeah.
like that mix of stuff just keeps guys so freaking frozen, so honest with their freaking hand placement.
Now, this is a guy I feel that is probably on the verge of retirement because of abuse he's taken. But you've got Cody Garbrandt taking on Julio Arce. I kind of feel like if Cody doesn't win this, he's going to lose by knockout. That's how I feel now with Cody.
If you're just playing based on recent history, you would not be wrong, sir.
Right. Let's see here. I want to check out his latest because it's not good.
Well, because
And he's
he
only
cut down to 125 or did he cut down to 135? Because then he immediately got knocked out again. But
he's down to
last fight,
125
yeah.
now.
125, there you go, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Kai Kara France knocked him out. He hasn't fought in a year and a half. Well, not quite a year and a half, a little over a year, about 14 months. So he did knock out Rafael Asuncio, but that was almost 3 years ago.
Well, and that was right at the end of the fight, in a fight that he was losing. And it was like literally, he threw a haymaker, like kind of, just like right hook, like off of the fence and slept him. But otherwise, it was going to go down as another L.
Out of his last 6 fights, he's lost 4 by knockout.
It's not good.
No. TJ knocked him out twice. Pedro Munoz knocked him out once. And his last fight, Kai Kara France knocked him out. So, in the first round. That doesn't bode well.
No, and he's a guy, that's one of those people where it's like, man, at what point do you just not want to see a guy take damage? Because, I mean, if you're having that kind of chin issues, like fighting at like bantamweight and stuff, like you've got like bad problems, as far as your concussion related stuff going on.
And his style has always been stand in the pocket and bang, like trade shot for shot. So
And it's
Like,
catching up to him
completely
now.
Evolves his game, yeah.
It's done caught him, I think, and it's pulled him down.
Well, and
Because
the
his
Yeah.
chin
fight,
is way different now than it used to be. And I mean, those knockouts, they change you. I mean,
They
I've
do.
seen a lot of those shots like that change guys. I mean, it's just, and I don't know if it's even, if it's neurological or, I mean, what it is. But I mean, you just see guys
I
that
think
their
so.
chins change. It's also a lot more money in the bank now, and he's older and other priorities and not as much pride. It's more of a
I
business and pride. So there's a lot of factors, I think, that go into that.
I I I like to compare it to the NFL before they had all the protected quarterback rules. Like, look at Troy Aikman. I feel like Troy Aikman could have had a much longer career, and maybe even Steve Young,
I say
had they
Steve
been
Young.
playing with the rules of today, but they had so many concussions, it shortened their career. And getting knocked out is a concussion. So I feel like those guys aren't taking enough time between those nasty knockouts, and they're just getting concussion after concussion after concussion, and it's just it shortens their career significantly.
Like I couldn't believe. I mean, look at Tony now since some of his wars and how fast, and then especially that knockout with Chandler. Like,
dude. Well, the Gaethje fight, that was just gross.
yeah,
Like you're literally watching a guy get years carved off of his life out there. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
we were talking about this like earlier on before you got here, but that's one of those where like at the end of the third round, like corner, just throw the towel in. It's like you came here to figure out who the better fighter was. We know, save the guy, like so he doesn't
yeah,
have
he
to
Yeah.
looked
die out
he
there.
looked
You know,
completely
like
different even versus Charles. Like we were, obviously
well
that's
he
why
got who was it?
told me we were watching that fight. But we're like, man, Tony just doesn't look like Tony.
No.
Well, it's like
No.
between the Dariush fight and the Charles fight. I forget which was which, but one of them basically like broke the shit out of his arm. The other one fucked his knee all up. You know, so it's like you add that in with like the just absolute beating he took against Gaethje. I mean, that's probably the worst that you've ever seen somebody get beat in the octagon. Just like it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was something to watch.
And some of his wins when he was like on that ridiculous win streak. I mean, he had some wars mixed in there as well,
Hmm.
like on his winning streak for years there when he was top of his game. So yeah, that guy, that's just time to call it a career and go coach or something if that's what you want to do.
Right.
Because that poor guy, God, he's Well, I mean, what else has he got to prove? And when he was in
No,
his
it's like
prime,
you
he
know,
was
and
one of the best at his weight class in the world, hands down.
well, it's like for fighting. Those guys are old, but not for life. You know, like you get in like your mid
Right.
30s and you're kind of past like, hey, you're at the end of like fight life. But it's like I'm 37. Like, I mean, I feel old from combat sports, but I'm not like actual old. You know, it's like that if I had
No.
40 fights under my freaking belt and all the concussion related problems, it's like, dude, you're gonna live. You know, even with all those problems, you're gonna live another 30, 40 years anyways. Like, you know, what's your quality of life that you want it to be?
Right. Do you want to have, Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and everything else at 58? You know? So, yeah, yeah. Some of those guys, somebody needs to just tell them they're done. Maybe somebody in the UFC needs to say, look, we're going to retire you for your own good. But,
Some guys, they're just like some of the guys that stay in the military or stay in some operating or being cops and all too long. That's all they know, and it's like their whole identity, and they just cannot get over that hump of taking that next step in life and changing. It's just like, man, you've already proven it. Like you're set.
yep.
When
So
you hear NFL guys talk about it a lot of times, just as far as like how often, I mean, it's the norm that like the new guys, they don't get a financial advisor, they don't have that sort of stuff. So it's like you have this like short period. I forget, like what the average actual length of like an NFL career is. It's probably what, like 2 years or something like that. And it's like you're going to make what is otherwise like a lot of money, relatively speaking, but like have some sort of like plan where that's going to like set you up for future success, but they don't. And I think fighting, obviously you don't make as much money, but it's very
nowhere
similar to like,
near as much.
yeah, but it's like, hey, if you like whatever you're doing financially, like use that money to like I don't know, set up a gym or whatever that's going to like be paying you money after that versus just basically banking on like the actual income from your fights and then having nothing to fall back on and doing what those guys are doing, being forced to take fights at 47 and stuff like that,
And who
I
was
mean, it's
the
sad to say, but most of my buddies don't even have health insurance. Like, they rely on the promoters. Like, after my last fight with my broke hand, I remember sitting in the back with the one guy, and they were like, "Yeah, do you have secondary?" Like, after the promoter's insurance, and I'm like, "Yeah, here's mine." Dude next to me is like, "Nope." Other dude down the road's like, "You got like secondary?" "Nope." I'm like,
Jeez.
"Good grief, guys! Like, you guys are professional fighters. Like, you don't have health insurance? Like, what happens if you got your leg broke like a week ago in training? Like, promoter ain't paying for that. Like, you're screwed. Like, you're done. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's just,
right?
yeah, there's a lot of that, but a lot of it's money too. I mean, it's a lot of guys that are, trying to scrape. I mean, these guys in the UFC, we were just talking about that before we came on earlier. Remember, I was talking to you, Dave. I was like, you were like, yeah, this 10-10 to show. I'm like, 10-10? Dude, some dudes are 2,500, 2,500
Well,
in
Yeah.
the
by the time you
prelims.
pay your manager, pay your gym, and whatever else, and yeah, I think I've kind of like long had the opinion that the best kept secret from like martial arts, like competitive martial arts, is how fucked up the people are that do it. Because like nobody comes away from a fight without broken finger, foot's a little wonky, like busted a toe, like at the bare minimum. Let alone like when you like actually like hurt something really badly. Like you're just like dudes are like messed up all the time, but you never know about anything except for like the catastrophic injuries.
And who's the former Alabama linebacker? He's a middleweight, a lefty.
Oh, yeah, he
Shoot.
just won the other day. When he came back, he went down to South America and had the stem cell and all done.
I believe he did. He,
Yeah.
like Lane was saying, I think he owns like 18 rental properties. He has taken all the money that he has won and invested it so that he said he doesn't even have to fight anymore. He's going to fight 3 or 4 more times and be done.
That's
Yeah,
smart.
it's great.
Yeah, real
I mean,
smart
look,
dude.
yeah, look at Connor. Connor's got all his company. I mean, you can say what you want about the guy and his antics, but he knows how to promote a fight, and he is a fantastic businessman as far as on the fight promoting the money he's made on that stuff and whatever his managers and wealth managers and financial advisors done. I mean, what did he sell proper his
It's like
his
50
whiskey
or
for? Like,
60 mil, 100 mil, something like that. It was a lot of
Yeah,
oh
it
money.
yeah,
was
I
a
thought it was
lot.
more than that. It was like I thought it was like even more than that, like a couple hundred or something. Something crazy. Like this, we just sold a whiskey company for like proper 12. I'm like, what? Like, it's genius, For I mean, smart to do. Yeah, you have a lot of guys, but at the same time too, you have guys that like try and then like maybe they just suck at teaching. Like we were talking about that with one of my buddies the other day. Like trying to remember the guy that just moved into our hometown that opened a school. Another UFC guy, really really good black belt in BJJ. He's done some even some IBJJF gi stuff. I'm trying to remember. It's gonna drive me nuts. I'll have to look it up later. But anyway, like there's a lot of guys like that like start gyms and then they just go nowhere, and you're like, that guy's got a gym. Like that guy's a former UFC, and like I didn't even know he had a gym in our town. Like, how does there's only a few pro guys like in our area. How did we not know that he was here with a gym? And it's like, does he not market it? Does he not do this? And it's like, you would think, guys like that would, with that type of, pedigree would, just be able to walk in anywhere and have a super successful gym. But some of them just, I don't know what it is. It's weird. You would think they'd all have gyms. I mean, there's so many towns around, so popular now. I mean, good grief, half every town you go to now has got like 8 BJJ you get gyms. So
Well, and one
Right.
of the issues too is like it doesn't matter what type of gym you're talking about, fight gym, regular workout gym, or whatever. Which is like one of the problems is like you make your money on normal people. There's not enough like you can't have a gym that makes money on serious people because there's not enough of them. So like you look at like even like the big fight gyms, most of them make their money on like regular exercise classes and stuff like that. Like you see like Jackson Wink and stuff like that is like they have like regular like classes in the gym and stuff, and that's like what keeps the lights on because they don't get paid until like a fighter gets paid from a fight, You know, if you're John Jones and yeah, you get a bunch of money, but the dude fights once a year. So it's like, you know, like where's your money going to come from? And I think,
and 20, he's only getting 20%.
yeah, you know, and
10,
I
yeah.
think that's like, I think those are some of like the best kept secrets that are like kind of dark secrets. Is like people think, you know, because you hear this like, you know, like Jackson Wink or like Team Quest or like, you know, Team Elevation or like these like just massive like powerhouse teams or whatever. And it's like, dude, it's like women's fitness at 6 a.m. that keeps the lights on in places like that. It ain't like, because, you know, and you've been around like MMA guys, or you've been around like serious weightlifter dudes. One, they're the ones who cause the most damage to all of the equipment. They're the least likely to pay. They're the dirtiest, and they give you the most problems. As like when it comes to like money and business related stuff.
Yeah, half the other
Yeah,
people.
our sparring the other day at ATT was like it's like 8 professional, 5 heavyweights. Like you don't get that many guys. And we were outside ATT waiting for one of their women's fitness classes to get done with. So yeah, just like you're saying, so we could get in the gym. We're like, what time can we go in there? Like, but they got 40, 50 people in that class and tons of them. And
Wow.
isn't that why? But isn't that why John Jones? Isn't that why Greg finally threw him out of New Mexico? There is because he said that how is he going to teach women self defense classes and have a guy that just got arrested for like his third or fourth time for like domestic battery. I think that's what Greg said why he kicked him out. I thought
Which
that's one of
is,
the
I
things he
mean,
said. He's
that's an
like, yeah,
integrity move. Like I give a guy credit
yeah,
for that, you know.
yeah.
I think it was it was the
Yeah.
Team Alpha Male guys like talked about like those guys, or maybe not the Team Alpha Male. What were the other wrestlers? The guys who started, I think it was in Arizona, started a fight camp. I want to say it was like Bader and like CB
AK.
Dalloway and those guys. But anyways, but like they were.
Oh, they were at AKA and then they switched, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I could be wrong. I feel like maybe like it was them who like started like their own fight thing. But anyways, but like and I've heard them and like the alpha male guys like they themselves like have to teach like the women's classes or the basic classes or run the CrossFit class or whatever, you know, as like part of the gym because that's just like how you make it work. And it's like but like nobody knows that because you watch like UFC, you know, like countdown to the fight show or whatever, and it looks like this one guy just like has all these people around him, like, and so you know, it's about this guy today and all that, and it's like, nope, you are watching this much of what what actually
What
happens
goes
during the
on?
time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah. Last time we were in Orlando, we got done rolling with Jacare. I mean, you're talking about one of the best grapplers ever lives, and he got done, and he couldn't go to dinner with us because he had to go cover the kids' class at night. So he's out there with like, I mean, what a bunch of lucky
Wow.
little
That's
shits is
awesome.
all I can
Yeah.
say. Like, how lucky are they to be white belts, like 7, 8
Yeah.
years old, and having Jacare Souza? Like, I don't know what their parents are paying
That's
a month that brought him
nuts.
there, but I hope they understand how lucky they are. But yeah, he's like, yeah, he couldn't go to dinner after because he had to go put a gi on because he was going to go teach like a 7 and 8 year old class. He didn't have anybody cover the class that night, and so it's actually Jacare himself going in to teach a kids class.
That's awesome.
Now, I put this up on the screen because after you've got Jones and Gone, I think this is another one of those fights that is going to be very interesting where you have Jan and Valashvili. Woo! Valashvili. Good Lord. I didn't have that problem before. Number 2 and number 3. Yeah, Marab, there you go. Cheater. JR, did you just get eaten?
Almost. It's getting pretty crunk up in this building. It's about to pop off in here. So main card comes on in about 4 minutes. So I think they're
Okay.
getting pretty wild in Orlando.
I guess so, yeah. It almost sounded like aliens attacked.
And this
To me, it
is
sounded like he's
Orlando,
like
so
sitting out by
nothing
the
but
interstate, just like cars going by. But
this is Orlando, so nothing would surprise me. It could be a car, it could be aliens. I don't know. I won't be surprised to see what goes on in these buildings. These fight crowds down here are awesome.
I still think Peter Yan could be the champ again of that division. There's some interesting fights he had with Aljamain. But I also like Volkov and Romanov as well. That's going to be a banging fight.
How old is
I just
Volkov
wanted to
now?
hear.
He's been around forever.
He has. He's been around quite a while. Here we go. I'll find out in just a second. Make sure I spell his name right. Or Fedor just retired.
Man, the
It's insane.
freaking the
Fedor
goat
finally
deserves better
retired. He
than
was
that.
back in Pride days. Like, yeah, he really did.
Yeah.
That guy was fighting in Pride. Like, that guy's such a legend. It's insane to think he's still fighting.
Right now, Volkov is 34 and he's had 45 fights.
Wow.
Yeah. He TKO'd Rosenstruck June of last year.
You in the video?
So
She's like hiding directly behind you.
Yeah.
yeah,
If
you
she
can
was
just
in
see his
that,
shape
I'd
around.
dead.
If she puts you in a rear naked choke, we're all gonna very much enjoy this.
Actually, I'm
That's
good at
funny.
getting out of that one.
So that'll be a good fight. Alexander Romanov. Let's. I'm gonna pull him up real quick here. Oh, see, I knew I'd spell one of them wrong. They don't spell their name all. Let's see here.
I don't want to
What?
trash any fighters, but like Marab, he's like one of those. Every fight goes to the bell and decision, and not exciting for me personally.
So his name is his nickname. Romanov's nickname is King Kong. Yeah, same guy. I'm like, am I looking at the same guy here? He lost his last fight was a decision loss to Marcin Tybura,
Bless you.
but he submitted Chase Sherman. I don't really. All the rest of the names are. Guys, he fought twice last year. One win, the submission against Chase Sherman by key lock, and the decision loss to Marcin Tybura during the Usman Edwards 2 fight.
Okay.
And he's 16-1, so that's his only loss. It was by decision. 6 KOs, 9 submissions, only 1 decision.
Heavyweights, man.
Forearm choke. So he's won by key lock, forearm choke, arm triangle.
It's like catch
Somebody-
wrestling. Those Russians, man. That Russian
neck
catch wrestling.
crank.
Those are
Yeah.
just classic
Yeah.
heavyweight submissions. Like I
Yep.
dig it.
Dude, he's got two.
Keep that armbar bullshit out of here and that leg lock stuff out of here and do the
Yeah.
other stuff.
I'm just gonna grab his jaw, the back of his head, and just twist until he taps.
He's got 2 neck cranks and 2 forearm chokes. Interesting. And the key lock. Wow. Talk about, maintaining variety there.
Yeah.
And that's not counting the arm triangle, rear naked choke. He had one guy submit because he got injured. So, one by TKO. He's got several knockouts. It'll be an interesting fight with Volkov then. And the last card I really wanted to talk about is coming up next month, March 18th. And it's a doozy. It's a doozy. UFC 286, Edwards versus Usman 3. I got my money on Usman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I concur.
I don't think he's going to make the same mistake twice. Interesting.
Vegas doesn't think he's going to make the same mistake again either. So.
No. Nope. They're like, yeah, we're not falling for it. But how about Justin Gaethje and Rafael Fiziev? That's going to
Not
be
watching Gaethje.
another banging fight.
Oh,
This card's going to be good. Gunnar Nelson, Daniel Rodriguez, Marvin Vittori. Are you kidding me? Those are going to be some really good fights. That card is stacked. At least the main card is.
There's a very good chance none of those go to decision.
Yeah, exactly.
I love those cards.
Me too. They're very exciting. Now, some of these other guys, I don't know who they are, but there's still, you got some ranked guys. I don't know who Jack Shore is. I'm not familiar with them. He's ranked 15th. Come down a little bit further. Muhammad Makayev. He's 12th in the flyweight rankings. Should be a very interesting card. I always like these cards that they have in Europe because you see a lot of European fighters that you wouldn't otherwise see. And I like this guy from Serbia. I wonder if he's got some kickboxing style to him or something. They typically have that type of a lot of kicks. Shoot, I'm having a brain fart. Who was the guy from Pride?
Talking about
Heavyweight.
Krokop?
Yeah, Krokop.
He was Croatian, but yes.
Right.
He's got
Croatia, Serbia. It's like the same thing.
Yeah.
Don't tell them that. They take that stuff very seriously.
I know they do.
Yeah, that one.
There's like a whole war about it back in the 90s.
That's like calling a Alabama fan and a Bulldog fan or something like to us.
Oh,
down here.
right.
It's a war. So Krokop's got a guy underneath him that's really good. He's in the PFL as well over here. Krokop's been cornering him. He's got several fighters. He's got a camp over there, or he's coached up now.
Really? I didn't know he was cornering people.
Yeah. He's got some guys underneath him that are got a couple guys in the PFL here.
Well, I still think one of the worst things that has ever happened in all of humanity is that Brendan Schaub somehow knocked out Krokop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gonzaga got him with a head kick too.
Like Earth.
Oh, yes.
Like we deserve the meteor of fucking sweet redemption after that. Like I can't handle it.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about it.
That's hilarious.
And then Gonzaga head kicking him, and I'm like, what just happened?
That was like the last cool thing Gonzaga ever did. He was kind of like
Literally.
Yeah, he was kind of like the cool thing there for a little bit up to that fight, and then nothing really happened after that.
Well, that's when.
What was it? I think he got starched by Shane Carwin right after that.
I think so, and then that's when like Carwin and Lesnar and like all those because Carwin was the man. I mean, he was incredibly skilled, and he was like super smart too. I think he was like an electrical engineer stuff for the state of Colorado.
Something like that. I remember he went to because he wrestled at Colorado School of Mines or whatever it's called.
Yeah, he was really cool. And then all of a sudden, Junior and Kane came in and just started dominating the division there for the longest time.
Well, I think Carwin had like a bad back injury or something in there too, and
something happened. He just disappeared.
Yeah.
I think he just fought because he wanted to. Like, he was another one of those guys. He was a smart guy. I don't think he didn't need to fight to pay his bills necessarily. He might have made great money, especially with that Lesnar fight, but that guy, I'm sure he had plenty of options, and he was probably smart enough to be like, yeah, you know what? I like my body.
That's good too. I mean, especially as a heavyweight, man, because you don't need to be in very many freaking knockdown dragouts as a heavyweight before you're suffering the negative effects of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a 4 minute, not overly exciting fight can cause tons of damage to the body. Like, it's just.
Well, especially him and
Especially
Lesnar. I mean, like both of them probably weighed what 315, 320, like fight night. Maybe not that much. Maybe 300, 315, like fight night.
At
Like
least
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
300.
because both
Yeah.
of them had to cut to 265. So I mean, that's probably the biggest fight that's ever happened weight wise in UFC. Like,
Oh, yeah. There was definitely
Yep.
well over 600 pounds of human beings
I
between the
wonder.
two
I
of
wonder if
them.
the octagon just kind of arced a little bit in the middle. Just kind of sagged when they were in the middle of the ring. That's a lot of
Yeah,
weight.
that was yeah. And Carwin had him beat too until they just kept letting it. That ref was like, until someone is dead, don't stop the fight. He had to be
Right.
told that because there was like, I think, a controversy right before that. That was like the biggest fight in history at the time. I think pay per view wise, he's like, do not stop this fight early. Like, whatever you do, like, till one of them is like legit just not moving, and it's like, oh my god, is he alive still? Don't call, because tons of people are like, are they gonna call that? Because Brock's getting mauled right now. Like, how many times is he gonna let him hammer fist him?
well, it's
Right.
so weird because like Lesnar's arms are so long and so big that he still managed to somehow like. I mean, he got knocked down and then took some like really good shots, but then when he was like completely balled up, he like his arms are so big, he wasn't really taking stuff like to the head for like the last like little bit of that, and you're like, this doesn't really make sense. Like you're not like normally like you cover up, but you're not like covered up like that guy is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he just started pounding him in the face of those lunch boxes in the second round when Shane was gassed.
Yeah, well, and that's like classic heavyweight stuff. There, like you got a guy tired, and you
Yeah.
freaking set up your head and arm, and you're like, yeah, this doesn't need to be. I don't need to even
Yeah, that
choke a
was
guy for this. Like
just about
yeah,
as close to a cardio tap as it gets.
yep.
Yep.
Don't care. Tap is a tap. You tapped whatever you want,
Yep.
buddy. Like
That's right. So I just looked up Roman Dolizzi, and he fought 3 times in 2022 and won all by knockout.
Whoa.
He knocked out Kyle Dawkins with knee and punches, Phil Hawes by punches, and Jack Hermanson by punches. So interesting 3 fight win streak. The Kyle Dawkins in 1 minute and 13 seconds, Phil Hawes in 4 minutes and 9 seconds, and Jack Hermanson 4 minutes and 6 seconds of the second round, and the fight was over. So that should be with Marvin Vittori. That should be a good fight.
Yeah. There's a couple people like that who I don't remember them until I go and look at their highlights. Because I remember when he knocked out Hermanson, like I was surprised because I'd never heard of him.
I didn't think he'd be allowed to have this nickname, the Caucasian. I mean, I feel like in today's time you can't have a nickname kind of anything like that.
listen, if Kane can have brown pride tattooed on his chest, I can have whatever nickname
Yep.
I want. All right.
Yeah,
That's
right.
funny. You got the Black
You
Beast
see-
too. One of my favorite fighters of all time.
No, it's fucking great. Yeah, like who cares,
Yeah.
man?
Yeah.
UFC has been pretty good about staying out of that until the only thing they've done lately is they stopped letting people right after the Ukrainian stuff broke out. They stopped letting people walk out with their flags because there was some shit in the back where a couple of guys
Oh.
that made it political walking out with Ukrainian flags and they weren't Ukrainian, and there was a couple of guys that like one guy wanted to walk out with a Russian flag, I think, and he was not Russian, and some shit like that in the back to like spell stuff up, and they're like, all right, we might be taking it too far, and instead of just telling those guys no, we're doing something, they're like, all right, no more flags when you walk out for now. So that's why no one's been carrying flags out. They stopped that in the back.
I always wondered what that was. Because Dana White wouldn't talk about it. He just said, we're not letting people do flags. You know why.
Well, they said they blamed on Ukrainian guys, but I'm trying to remember which one of the guys were with. We were in Tampa the other day. One of the ATT guys was cornering a guy there, and yeah, I think there was someone who was trying to like pump up a fight, and like brought a Russian flag and stuff with him, and he was not Russian, And I don't know if he was fighting a Ukrainian guy or what it was, but it was pretty much like a shit talking thing. He brought a Russian flag, and they're like, "Okay, no, we're not doing this." There was like a whole thing in the back. They wouldn't let him, and a bunch of shit got started, and I guess that's what it led to. So
I would do it.
Interesting. A lot of behind.
but
the
it's
scenes
completely fine for Connor to talk about other people's wives, their religion,
stuff. Right.
all
I
that kind of
say
stuff.
that
That's
was what I thought
okay.
was the best part about the whole Khabib and Connor like aftermath stuff was it's like then the UFC tried to be like, oh my gosh, we spent the whole time like playing up like Russians versus Irish people, and we could have had no possible idea that like this would end this way, like at the cage. And I was like, A, yes you did, and B, if you didn't, you are the dumbest people alive. Like the Dagestanis don't fart around with that stuff. Like that,
No, you do not talk about. Yeah, you don't talk about the. You don't. That is one section of the Muslim community you really that has no screwing around in their bloodline at all. Like no sense of humor. The like
Wait.
Connor being like, oh, it's just business, just business. Like that was not just business to them.
let's talk now. Let's talk now. Like,
Yeah.
it's just so great.
But they're also not the ones to start the trash talk. You know what I mean? Like they're not. They're just here to do what they do, and they don't do all that other nonsense. That's why the Diaz brothers rub me the wrong way. I know they're completely different outside of the ring, but all the trash talk and the water bottle throwing and all that stuff, I don't need all that.
Yeah, I got to meet them when I was like first starting. I was probably like 15. They came to our town and were grappling. They were already, I think, black belts then. Yeah, when I saw them on TV and stuff, started watching them, I was like, that's the same guys that were here? Really? Like, I was like, same thing. Yeah, completely different, but yeah, that persona. But they made a lot of money.
Yeah, I didn't.
Never being champs. They've made a lot of money.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad for Nate in that last fight with Robbie Lawler because you could tell he didn't want to be in there. So.
Yeah.
Nick.
Oh yeah, Nick. I'm sorry, you're right. Nick, not Nate, the older brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of sucked.
Nate's gonna be what's he doing? What's he supposed to do it on boxing or something now? I think.
He's trying to set up some stuff. I don't think anything's quite
He's got his own
settled
promotion.
in.
He started his own agency and a promotion. He started
He he did, and I thought I had pulled some screenshots, but I guess not. But he does. You're right, and it's mostly boxing actually.
Yeah, because I'd
No?
much rather have my percentage of a couple $100 million than I would of
Oh yeah,
15 or 20.
1,500.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I had too was I don't know if you guys saw. I'm going to stop sharing this screen. I'll share the other one real quick, and we'll see if you guys want to do any more or not. But all right, let me share this screen real quick here. Where is the? Where is it? Why am I not seeing it? Interesting. I've got a picture up on one of my screens, but I can't see it to share it.
Fellas, I am being summoned. I'm going to have to go jump off so I can go do be of some assistance for my trip over. Yeah.
Good luck.
Good luck.
For your
Have
fighter.
a good one.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Well, good seeing you guys and do it again. We got to do it again soon.
Yes, we'll have to do this again where we can see you.
All right. Yeah. Tune in a little bit. Yeah. Tune
All
in
right,
a little
take
bit.
care.
And see Roz. Yeah. Tune in a little bit. See Roz go at it. It's going to be a good one here in a little bit.
All right.
So it's like a 6'4", 265-pounder versus 6'7", 260-pounder. So BJJ black belt versus striker, classic grappler and striker. So Be interesting to see.
Here we go.
There we go. So,
Wow.
all right, we'll talk to you guys.
All right, see ya.
Have a good
Hey
one.
guys, you guys see it.
I can't seem to share it, but the last thing I had was Helen Yee of Helen Yee Sports was interviewing Cejudo, and he's saying he's fighting Aljamain on May 6th.
Wow.
Now he said the only thing he's waiting on is Aljamain to sign it, but everything's been agreed to. He's just waiting on a signature.
That'd
That's
be
a big
interesting.
fight for Henry to come back.
Yeah.
I think it's a good fight for Henry to come back to as well. So I'd watch that.
I would too. I think he's got better striking than Aljamain, and Aljamain might be a good grappler. I mean, he's a very good grappler, but can Henry, with his Olympic wrestling, negate the grappling?
It's hard for me to imagine him ending up on the ground when he doesn't want to end up on the ground with a guy like that.
Yeah. I have a lot of respect for Sterling, though, after his second fight with Peter Yan. He looked amazing.
He did. He controlled him, but I mean, but Henry's got a whole different level of wrestling, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he's like the Daniel Cormier of the 135 pounders.
Except he won at the Olympics, so.
Correct. Yeah. But I mean, he's got, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. All right. Yeah. He did. So that's a whole other ball of wax. And then you hear, you know, when I heard the interview with DJ, with Mighty Mouse, Demetrius Johnson, and how when he trained with him, how Henry Cejudo is very detail oriented, comes up with a strategy, maintains that strategy even in the fight. He's able to not get led astray, and he maintains that strategy. Pretty interesting. This guy's on a totally different level. I don't know that Aljamain has the striking to overcome that.
No, it's hard for me to imagine it. Like if I just try to think of it off the top of my head, like the only thing I can kind of see is if he manages to either get him in closed guard, and he's long enough, he could probably lock up a body lock from the bottom, you know, and just like completely stifle him down there. Because it's hard for me to imagine him getting Henry Cejudo's back, and he couldn't take him down. So that's
Right.
that's a curious one.
I could see, you know, there's those times where, you know, something crazy happens and someone trips and slips and then someone jumps on him. That's the only way I could really see where he could take his back. But then I still feel like Henry would be able to reverse, you know, he knows how to reverse it and would be able to. I don't know. I just don't see Aljamain's grappling overcoming Henry's wrestling, and then I give Henry the advantage on the feet.
For sure.
Yeah.
The real question would be then, does he stay or does he just come back to on occasion to take a fight and then exit again? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he's successful enough coaching stuff. It's kind of like, why? You know, come back and take a big one if you get a chance to, and then bounce. You know.
Yeah. Or do that and then maybe come up and fight Volk at 145. That would be interesting.
That
Yeah,
would,
yeah.
And I feel like he's got the size where he could do that, and that would be a very interesting fight in that I feel like you have two very similar styles. So that would be a very interesting chess match. Now, I'll finish the quote here because I did this on purpose. I didn't want to do the other half. He did say he wasn't totally confident that Aljamain will sign, so he's also preparing for Sean O'Malley. So it sounds like he's fighting regardless. It's just, is it going to be Aljamain or is it going to be Sean O'Malley? Now, Aljamain did reply because Henry tweeted that out, and Aljamain said, "You know I'm going to spank you, right? Save this tweet." So, so the smack talk has begun. But I thought Aljamain, didn't he just have surgery on his neck or something? So I don't even know if he's going to be healthy. Let's see if
Yeah,
I can.
that I don't know. I honestly never really like the guy, so
Cole, you're usually up on.
I don't keep up with him a ton, but
Let's see here. When was this? This
I
was
do like
February.
Chandra Valley, but that's a huge step up. But then, I mean, he just fought Peter Yan. That was really close, though. I could have gone either way on that fight as far as who I thought won. In fact, I think I thought Yan had won.
there's definitely
I
a little
did
bit
too.
controversial with it. But yeah,
I did too.
but Jan ain't a cash cow though.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, this was from February 2nd. He says, this is Aljamain, that after he finishes Cejudo, there's nothing bantamweight has left for him, and he's probably going to move up. But this is what I didn't know. Mirab, I'm not saying that name again, is his teammate.
Yeah.
So it looks like because of that, he's going to move up in weight. So he would then fight Volk or whomever, and Mirab would be moving up to take a championship fight.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Yeah. Aljamain says he sees a second round TKO to finish Henry Cejudo.
Hey, you got to sell the fight though, right? So.
You can say whatever.
Right. Okay. Touche. Oh, goodness. He says the cut to 135 is pretty rough. So that would make sense as to why you would move up. So, oh, wow. He said he was on the morning of that interview, he weighed 167. So that's a 32-pound weight cut, which percentage-wise, that's a much greater body weight
Yeah.
percentage than what Pereira does. So,
Well,
yeah,
if
that's
we're,
a lot of shoot. That's almost 20% of his body weight. That'll be an interesting fight. So I look forward to that one happening. So there are some good fights coming up this year.
No, for sure. But if you guys are about ready to call it, I gotta go. Gotta go do some video
Yep.
work and prep things tomorrow. So I gotta go get all my sim stuff and all my things ready for the morning to do to shoot friends with the good stuff there. But
Oh, cool. Well, have fun. Enjoy. It's always good to see you.
yep, you guys as well.
All right. You good, Joel?
I'm good. I will just throw out, we were talking about people taking years off their life earlier. I don't know why recently I keep getting highlights from early UFC, and people used to be unconscious for like 20, 30 seconds just getting their head smashed after they've gone to
Yeah.
fight. So if you ever get a chance to go look at those old highlights, that's pretty ugly.
Back in the glory days.
Yeah.
All right,
You
guys.
go. All
I will
right.
see you guys on the flip side.
Take
All
care.
right. See you guys.